Hi, welcome back to another video. So, I always feel uncomfortable at the start of these videos when I start just talking to myself. But anyway, hello. So I'm about to make a snack, but I'm waiting for the bread to defrost a little bit before I toast it. So I thought I'd start my recording now. So I put up a blog post yesterday about feeling tempted to weigh myself. So yesterday I was at university and I was working in a room there that had a set of scales in the corner. I had a brief thought of, why not weigh yourself? Like, no one's around, no one would see you do it. You know, just, you haven't been weighed for a while, you haven't weighed yourself for a while, why not just try, just check it out, see what the number is. If anything, make sure that you haven't lost weight. Eating disorders are so tricksy, right? Like, those are eating disorder driven thoughts, I think. But they'll capitalize on anything, really, won't they? Like, make sure you haven't lost weight, as if my eating disorder would be unhappy if I had lost weight. So I thought for a bit longer and just noticed these thoughts that I was having. I thought about how I would feel after I weighed myself. I thought, does the fact that I'm tempted to weigh myself when I'm alone, sort of secretively, indicate that it's a bad idea? Or what if I could look at the scales and feel nothing though? Like, how incredible would that be? What an amazing indicator of recovery. And that's definitely something I am aiming for. But was this the right time to do that? So then I thought through the possible scenarios. So I might weigh myself and I had gained weight. And I would probably feel distressed, because even if the weight gain is really minimal, like just a cupful of water or something, I feel anxious, I feel like it's too much, and my thoughts start spiraling, like, what if I keep gaining weight forever? When is this going to stop? Why aren't I at my set point yet? What is happening? And even within your set point, I know that it's a range. Sometimes you'll be higher, sometimes you'll be lower. Rationally, I know that. But in my eating disorder brain, it doesn't understand that and it doesn't like it. And then eating and doing pro-recovery actions would become harder, because I'd be thinking about the number and worried about gaining more weight. And I know from past experiences that I often end up with that number just running through my head on repeat, and I can't focus on anything because I'm just thinking about the number. I'm thinking about how uncomfortable I feel in my clothes after seeing the number. I'm thinking about what other people might be thinking when they look at me. I'm thinking about if I can trust my judgment in the mirror. I'm thinking about, if I eat this, will I gain this? Am I eating too much? Like, just a whole hurricane of thoughts come from seeing that number. So that's the scenario if I gain weight. But what if I see the number on the scale and I lost weight? Well, then it's good that I looked at it, right? Because then I know I need to eat more, and so that's good. But seeing the number on the scale, seeing that I've lost weight, is probably again going to make me feel distressed and a bit torn. I know from earlier in recovery when I'd been trying really hard, and one week during, like, when I was in full-time treatment, I was told after my weigh-in that I had actually lost weight, which was just all kinds of confusing, because I got that little dopamine hit from anorexia, like, good job, you did it, well done, now you did that without even trying, now you can just lose a little bit more, just a little bit more, just eat slightly less and just see if you can just lose a little bit more. Like, it wasn't even hard to lose that little bit of weight, so your set point is probably naturally a bit lower, so just restrict just a tiny bit. It's not even restriction, it's just don't spread so much peanut butter there, and just have a little bit less rice here, and just your set point is just naturally a bit lower. Like, these are the sorts of thoughts that I would have, and they're so believable. but again, they're anorexia. So by seeing that lower number on the scale, I'd be giving anorexia a win, and then I'd also be experiencing fear because I'd be wondering, well, why is the number lower? Have I not been eating enough? Have I not been doing the recovery actions properly? Am I failing in my recovery? What's going on? Yes, eating probably does become a little bit easier temporarily because the number is a bit lower. I feel like I have a little buffer maybe to eat a bit more. But then, so then maybe for like a day I eat slightly more, but then the next day I think, well, I've probably eaten enough to get my weight slightly higher, so now just stop eating so much. And because eating disorders are not logical, like this amount of food doesn't equate to this much weight gain, but in my head I'll think that it does. And again, I'll just have that number spiraling through my head, just thinking about it, and I'll probably want to weigh myself again a bit later just to see how it's tracking. Like, did I eat enough to gain weight? You know, just check it out. And then I could easily end up back in a sort of back in a routine of weighing myself regularly, or at least wanting to. The third scenario could be that I weigh myself and my weight is exactly the same. Except I realise that this scenario wouldn't actually be possible because I don't remember my weight from the last time I was weighed, which in itself is pretty cool because I used to remember my weight absolutely to the, you know, to the 100 grams. I would remember my weight, but I don't anymore, which is pretty cool. But even so, I would be worrying, so if I don't remember, then is this number more or less than the last time I was weighed? And then again, I worry about the number for days on end. So of course there is an alternative scenario where I don't weigh myself, and that was the scenario that I chose yesterday. It meant that I'm now free of knowing the number. I'm not thinking about the number for days on end. I'm not curious, like, well, I'm slightly curious, let's be honest. I'm not recovered yet, but I'm not gonna go and weigh myself, and I don't really feel tempted to. So I can think about other things that I actually care about instead and try to focus on doing those things. As I said earlier, I do think it would be awesome if I could see the number on the scale and just not feel anything towards it. That is what I'm aiming for, and I do believe that that day will come. But I don't think it's going to be a day when I've chosen to weigh myself secretively. I think it's going to be maybe I go to the GP and she lets the number slip and I hear it, but it doesn't mean anything to me anymore. Or I'm participating in an experiment at university, like I do sometimes, and the researcher just automatically recites the number on the scales back to me, and I quickly forget it because who really cares? I think it will happen on a day when I haven't chosen myself to weigh myself. I won't care at all about my weight anymore, and I won't feel interested in knowing the number because it really means nothing. Like, all it amounts to is like the gravitational pull of your mass or whatever on the earth. Like, that's all. Like, we know that BMI is shit, and your weight has nothing to do with your worth as a person or your value or your likes or dislikes, your personality. Like, your weight does not mean anything. But what I did think was important when I was thinking about whether to weigh myself or not is that all of what I just explained, all of those thoughts that I had in my mind, they were really fast, right? Because I think a lot faster than I can talk, generally. So I observed those eating disorder thoughts that I had initially, like, maybe go weigh yourself. Then I came back with my rational thoughts from sort of the wise mind perspective, from dialectical behavioural therapy is wise mind, your rational thoughts. And then I moved on, right? Because anorexia is always going to have a counter argument for anything that you throw at it. So, and it can be so sneaky. So as soon as you touch on your rational thoughts, which in this case were probably best not to weigh yourself so that you don't think of the number for ages and ages and you can just move on and actually do your work right now. As soon as I had that thought, I stopped thinking about it and I moved on. And only when I left the room and I hadn't weighed myself did I think, oh, that was pretty cool actually. I'm glad that I didn't do it. As I said, the most important thing is that regardless of whether you weigh yourself, regardless of, and then whatever the number is on the scales, the most important thing is that you keep going with recovery. It doesn't matter what the number says. The number does not mean anything about you, and it does not mean that you should restrict. Absolutely not. But I chose not to weigh myself because it just makes recovery so much harder when you know the number and then you overthink everything. It's so much nicer to just not know the number and just focus on doing recovery and not worrying about, well, how much am I going to gain if I eat this? Which, I mean, you might worry about anyway, but at least you don't have to deal with precise figures in your head and feel tempted to go back and weigh yourself again. That's all I wanted to say about that. So my bread is probably defrosted now, so I'm gonna make some avocado on toast with lemon, pepper, maybe some tomato, definitely salt, and then I'll probably end this recording. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all your support, your comments. I really appreciate them, as well as your messages. And yeah, I hope you're keeping safe and well. Sending you lots of love wherever you are. Bye.